Today I'm going to show you a 2006 American biographical drama, called The Pursuit of Happiness. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens up in San Francisco, 1981. Chris Gardner, who is a hardworking salesman, sells portable bone density scanners, a medical device he sells for a living, but he is always faced with financial issues as doctors sees the scanners as unnecessary and expensive. His wife Linda, who works double shift as a hotel maid, always argues with him for not paying the necessary bills and taking care of the family financially. While the whole family were eating dinner, she asked Chris about the taxes, if he had paid them off. He tells her he has to file another extension because there wasn't any money on him. As he tried to calm her down, she leaves angrily. The next day, while walking on the streets, Chris meets a stockbroker who seemed to be living a luxurious life. After asking the man how he became a stockbroker, the man tells him, he just had to be good with numbers and people. He noticed that everyone walking in and out of the building looked so happy, and that was the kind of feeling he needed right now in his life. The next morning, he tells his wife that he wants to apply for a job as a stockbroker in a brokerage firm, because he felt he was good in maths, but she wasn't convinced being a stockbroker would help out their situation at the moment. She argues with him that they were 2 months behind rent and he should get them off that situation. He then tells her that he has been trying his best to take care of the family and that is why he wants to see if he could get the job. She became angry and leaves. Later that morning, he went on to apply for the job at Dean Witter's resource office. As he was about entering the office, he gave one of his portable scanners to a street performer. He tells her that he needed to leave the scanner with her as he couldn't take it with him for the interview. She accepted with $1. Chris Gardner then meets up with Tim Brophy. Tim tells him that they could only find him an application for internship. As they were talking, Chris sees the street performer running away with his scanner. He quickly takes an excuse as he chases after the street performer. He ran through the busy streets yelling for her to stop, but she managed to escape. While pondering, he noticed that the program took only 20 people in 6 months and only one person got the job, which means it would only take a miracle for him to be accepted as he wasn't really qualified. Later that day, he promised his wife that he would sell the scanner on him. Chris then go over to the Dean Witter's firm. He meets up with Jay Twistle, the head of human resources. Chris gives him his application and tells him he would love to discuss personally with him, but Jay waved him cause he was in a hurry. Outside the office, Chris makes a sales call to arrange another meeting to sell of his scanner. As he finished up with the call, he saw the street artiste who ran away with his scanner, with a friend walking on the streets. He immediately yelled at them to stop as he chased them again. He goes on to narrate that he spent his entire life savings on the scanners, but what he didn't know was that doctors and hospitals would consider them unnecessary luxury, so he had to sell everything for survival. He catches up with the street artist and takes his scanner back. But now he has 2 scanners coming back home with him after he had promised his wife that he would sell off the other one. When he got home, his wife was disappointed. He goes on to speak to Linda. He tries to explain how someone stole the scanner, but Linda wasn't interested in his story. Chris then tries to reassure her that everything was going to be all right and fine. But she tells him she doesn't care anymore. In the next scene, Chris meets up with Jay Twistle. He tells him that he had submitted an internship application a month ago and he wants to really talk to him about it. Jay then tells him that he is going to Noe Valleys and Chris should probably meet up another time. Chris then lied that he is also heading to Noe Valleys. Jay allows him share a ride. Chris tells Jay on how he would put in so much passion into the job and how he was also very dedicated to working, but Jay's attention was on the Rubik Cube he was trying to solve. Chris then tells him that the job was really important to him. Jay tells him that he is focused on the Rubik Cube since it was impossible to achieve. Chris then tells him that he could arrange the cube, but Jay laughs saying he couldn't and it was impossible. Jay then gives Chris the cube to solve. In an intense situation of doing it right before the cab reached its destination, Chris managed to solve the puzzle. Jay was astonished as he felt it was impossible. Jay then bids him farewell as he drops off from the cab. Chris was now left to pay his transport fare. But he had no money on him. So he quickly came down from the cab and took off with his scanner. The cab driver chases after him. Chris manages to get inside a moving train, but his scanner is stuck in between the doors, which resulted in losing the scanner. This made Chris very devastated as the scanner was his only means of survival. Later that night he calls Linda to apologize for not picking up Christopher. Linda tells him that she was fed up and she is leaving with Christopher. He rushes back home but discovers that Linda had already left, packing all her stuffs with Christopher. He was devastated. Just then he received a call from Jay telling him to come for an interview concerning the internship program, a day after tomorrow. He then gives Chris his secretary's number, but Chris wasn't with a pen, so he memorized it in his head and went outside to a store to write it down. The next day he sees Linda on the way after she had just dropped off Chris at daycare. He confronts her telling her to bring back his son and that she could run off because she was so weak. He then goes to pick Christopher from daycare. Later that night, while he was preparing dinner, his landlord came to ask for his rent. Chris tells him that he needed just little time and he would pay. The landlord insisted that Chris should leave first thing tomorrow morning. Chris then offers to paint the house for a 1-week stay. The landlord agrees and then leaves. The next morning, while Chris was painting the house, the police came over. They took him to the station and forced him to pay off his parking tickets. After he had cleared them, the police tells him that he has to wait till 9:30 tomorrow morning to verify. Chris tries to tell them that he has a job interview at Dean Witter's at exactly 10:15, but they turned deaf ears, saying it was the legal process and he had to wait. Chris then calls Linda. He tells her to take care of Christopher as he would be away till tomorrow, but she agreed on the condition that she would spend time with him and bring him back late. Chris had no other choice but to agree. The next day after he was released, he runs to Dean Witter's firm for the interview, in his paint-stained clothes and tattered wares. When he arrived for the interview, they were all surprised to see him dress improperly and tattered. He then explained to them that he was arrested for failure of paying parking tickets and he was painting his room before he was arrested. The supervisor then proceeded to asking him other questions. The supervisor wasn't really impressed with Chris' qualifications, so he then asked what would he say if a guy walked in for an interview with a shirt on. Chris then replied saying he must have had a nice pants on, and they all burst into laughter. Jay then congratulates him for passing the interview, but Chris wasn't happy when he found out that they weren't going to be paid any salary during the 6 months internship, and it was probably going to be only one person they would pick for the job. The only resource he was going to have for the next 6 months would be his 6 scanners. If he sold them all, maybe they could go through. Later that night, after Linda had brought back Christopher, she tells him that she would be going to New York to work at her sister's boyfriend restaurant. Chris tells her that Christopher was going to stay with him. She then asks him what he was going to do for money. He tells her that he was accepted into the internship program and he was going to cope. She was still not convinced. She then tells Chris she knows that he would take care of Christopher, then she leaves. Later, Chris calls Jay to accept the internship program. The next morning, with the help of Wayne, Chris and Christopher moved to spend some alone time in a hotel. Later that day they went for basketball. Christopher then tells Chris that he wants to go pro, but Chris jokingly tells him that it wasn't going to happen as he was a bad player himself. He tells him that he would excel at a lot of things but not basketball. Christopher becomes sad and throws the basketball away. Chris then goes over to meet him. He then motivates Christopher, telling him that he shouldn't let other people tell him that he couldn't do anything, not even him, Chris. If he had a dream, he should always go for it. Chris manages to sell a scanner to a doctor. The money earned from the scanner would help them for the main time. The next day he started the internship program to learn all about the way they trade and work. During their 10 minutes break, he meets up with Mr. Frome. As they were discussing about the experience they had at the program, Chris sees his scanner that was lost at the train station with a man who claimed it to be a time machine. He quickly ends the conversation with Mr. Frome and chases after the man, but got involved in an accident which he claimed he was alright but loses a shoe. He had to return back to the firm with only shoe. During his first days at the firm, he was always running on errands for his office manager, as he underrated him because he felt Chris wasn't qualified. Chris had to work very hard, pick up Christopher from daycare. At the end of the day he gets totally exhausted. Whoever brought in the most money after 6 months was usually hired, so they were all working their way up call sheets to sign clients. They stayed till 7, but he had Christopher and has to do in 6 hours what they do in 9. But still, after 2 months things weren't still showing good results, so he decided to skip a lot of clients and go for the pension fund CEO, Walter Ribbon. He was lucky enough to have an appointment with him in 20 minutes. As he was going for the meeting, his office manager asks him to help him move his car. Although he tried explaining that he had a meeting with Walter Ribbon, the manager still waved him off. As he tried to move the car, he got into a heavy traffic jam and later on missed his appointment. He became more frustrated when he noticed he was given a parking ticket. The next day Chris takes Christopher to Walter Ribbon's apartment. As he got to the apartment, he apologizes to Mr. Ribbon for missing his appointment. Mr. Ribbon then invites them to the football game. He offered them a VIP seat in the game. Unfortunately, things didn't work out well with Mr. Ribbon, as he tells Chris during the game that there was no way he could let him handle his pension funds, but Chris got the opportunity to communicate his business ideas to Mr. Ribbon's friends who also came for the game. After 4 months had passed, Chris had sold all his scanners and things were going very well for them. Until one day a letter brought him back. The IRS had taken all his money in his account for unpaid taxes, which left him with only $21.33. He became broke once more. His landlord began pressuring him on rent, so he went over to his friend Wayne to ask for his $14 he was owing, but Wayne refused to give him. Chris became angry and started shouting at him after Wayne told him that he had settled the debt for driving him to the motel. Chris then takes Christopher to a park. At the park he sees his other scanner and takes it back. He tried selling it but discovered it was broken. The doctor then assures him that if he fixed it, he would buy it. When they got back to the hotel, they discovered that their things were already thrown out because of unpaid rent. Christopher then became frustrated, but Chris shouts at him, telling him to behave. They looked for someplace to spend the night but ended up in a subway. In a father and son bonding, Chris plays with Christopher, telling him the scanner was a time machine. They played pretense like they had gone back in the time of dinosaurs and were cavemen. Chris then tells Christopher that they needed a cave to hide from the T-Rex. They ended up in the subway restroom. While Christopher was sleeping, Chris broke down in tears as he felt he was a failure. The next day they secured a room and a place for homeless people. They were lucky to be the last people that were taken. That night, after tucking Christopher to sleep, he went to repair his scanner and also read his internship book. He had to carry his luggage to work the next day, as he wasn't allowed to keep them in Glide, the home for homeless people. He learnt to communicate faster with clients as he had to finish up before 5 to get in line at Glide. Later on, Chris took the internship exams. He wrote it at ease. He was the second person to finish the exams after a particular guy, who later discovered he didn't write the essay at the back. After the exams, Chris meets up with Mr. Frome, who asks him for $5 to pay a cab man, as he had forgotten his wallet upstairs. Although Chris didn't have enough, he still managed to give Mr. Frome the money. As he arrived at Glide, he didn't get to secure a spot and they slept in a moving train. The next day, he began selling his blood to buy parts to repair his scanner. Chris repairs the scanner and sells it. He earned enough money to stay in a hotel. At work, Jay meets up with Chris. He tells him that no matter what the results was, he had done a great job. This made Chris feel so worried. In the next scene, while Chris was working, his office manager called him to his office. As Chris got to the office feeling all nervous, he tries to crack a joke saying he wore a shirt today. Mr. Frome tells him to wear one tomorrow cause tomorrow would be his first day as a broker. While trying to fight off his tears, he thanks the three of them. As he gets outside of the firm, he narrates that this part of his life is called happiness. He was finally happy after many years of struggles and pains. He was so overjoyed that he ran straight to Christopher's daycare to give him a very big hug. After beginning his career at Dean Witter, Chris went on to find his own investment firm called Gardner Rich in 1987. Years later, he sold a minority stake in his brokerage firm, which landed him a multi-million-dollar deal. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. Goodbye till we meet again.